Morning guys, Mark Ferrasci with ProTech Dog Training. I promised you a video with me talking about the subject of that post that I just posted on Facebook in regards to the guy that got torn up by the pit bull mix French Mastiffs, Bordeaux, whatever how the heck you say that full name on the French Mastiffs. But that's what we think they were, and there's a lot of factors that go into this, and that's why I wanted to talk about it, okay? When we're dealing with a dog aggression, in a general sense, remember what I always say, a dog is a product of two things, breeding and environment, okay? So the breeding that we're looking at is we're saying the French Mastiffs, okay? Mastiffs are a different breed, all right? So we have to be understanding that. And then the biggest thing that comes to my mind, the first thing that jumped into my mind when I heard about this incident that happened just down the way from us about a week or so ago, were these two bonded pair of pit mix, and we think they probably had French Mastiff in them. But with the breed propensities, you already have a factor that you right away should have some bells and whistles going on. And then the other one that comes to mind is the evaluation and the assessment of these animals taken in by a rescue. There's all kinds of rescues. They're jumping up all over the place. Everybody wants to save a dog. How much experience they have in dealing with these dogs and how much experience they have with this type of aggression is questionable. Okay, at this point, that's the first thing that jumps into my mind. Their ability to assess and to evaluate those dogs and to make sure something like this doesn't happen. Now, they boarded the dogs down the way with somebody that is pretty familiar with dogs, okay? She's been doing that for a lot of years. But their evaluation and their protocol when they deal with these dogs, we need to have a certain amount of experience, okay? Just because you can take a dog on a leash and go walk it through a door doesn't mean that you have the experience to assess if that dog is worth saving or not, okay? And that doesn't mean that every dog is savable, okay? You have to be able to assess, to evaluate, and to have a protocol, a safety protocol that you have there. And it should be just like a checklist, A, B, C, and you just go through it very methodically and take your emotions out of it, okay? And that's why we do things like that. That's why we do it. Okay, if this adds up to 2 and 2 adds up to 4, then we go to the next factor, okay? So bottom line is safety protocols, very important, okay? I've dealt with dogs my whole life, and I've dealt with quite a few bad ones, all right? I deal with aggressive all the time. Okay, so that being the case, you've got to be able to evaluate it and know when you need some help. Okay, when I got Arrow in, I have a good friend of mine that does a lot more than me even, and pretty much specializes in dog aggression. That being the case, he goes in and he evaluates and he makes some pretty sound decisions on what he's doing with these dogs, okay? He came down and helped me with Arrow. It took 2 to tango in this regards. And a lot of times in dog training it does. It takes 2 people to do things, okay? And so I had him come over to my house and help me with Arrow, and he did a great job helping me. And a lot of my ability is to be able to be around people that I respect, that I know their stuff, that are going to be able to evaluate and give feedback, because we're bouncing off each other as we're trying to assess this and deal with this, okay? If I do things all by myself, I've got that limited perspective. Remember to talk about those blinders, right? I always like to have people around me that I can have that give that second opinion and can give me feedback that allows my juices to flow the way they do. I'm not perfect. I'm human like anybody, okay? So in a nutshell, what happened, the incident that happened was that she got these dogs brought to her from a rescue. She took the dogs in and they got put into a kennel. They were a bonded pair, Pit, Bordeaux, whatever the name of the fancy name is for the French Mastiff. It's a French Mastiff. I can't say the name too well. But in a nutshell, how much assessment was done when the dogs were being taken in? How much did she know of their history and everything else in regards to that? And the safety factors that would be elevated if the dogs are having problems in aggression in that regards. The gentleman had the kennel be getting ripped up, and he went in to go try to fix the kennel, and he had a stick with him, and he tried to go in and deal with this, and the dogs went after him and tore him up pretty good. They broke his wrist, they tore up his whole arm, and both arms actually, and both legs. So it was happening for a while, and he finally got his way out of the kennel. So he was in the hospital. I don't think he's in the hospital now, but he was in the hospital for a good 3 or 4 days, surgery, the whole nine yards. So this was pretty heavy situation, okay? So in a nutshell, I want you guys to understand that the dogs that you have at home are totally different than the dogs that I would have at a kennel. When you have them in a kennel environment, it changes things, okay? Frustration builds. Their drive level with barking at each other, going off in that whole build of adrenaline based on aggression, that they're fence fighting or whatever may be happening. And I'm not too familiar with her kennel, but I do believe she has walls that the dogs can't see each other. That helps, okay? Believe me. The drive levels stay a little bit lower. How long were the dogs in that kennel? How well did they know the kennel handler, the person that was going in to clean the kennels, so kennel maintenance? How long were they there that he knew them or did not know them? Okay, did he have any idea of their background and their history? Okay, the rescue is the one that's going to be mainly responsible for this because they evaluated that dog, and their job is to make sure that nothing happens that's going to be a danger. The only thing we have going for us that we have our experience and our ability to read and ability to be able to deal with this sort of thing if you have the knowledge, okay? You have to have the knowledge base, and then you can't do stupid things. Things happen. You make decisions from square one, from the day one that dog was evaluated by the rescue, the day one that they decided to take him to the kennel, how much background and history did they give that facility when they dropped off the dogs to know that they were possibly a dangerous dog. All these things have to factor in. There should be set protocols and procedure in dealing with aggressive dogs, okay? That's what's going to save you. Because when you have protocol and procedures, you're going to always go to those. That's training, right? And you're not going to let your emotions overwind you. I'll be a good example. Everybody's human, okay? I got nailed the other day, and I've got a pretty good boo-boo on my finger where a dog nailed me, okay? He nailed me with aggression. He came at me, and when I was trying to shut the door, he got my finger that was kind of sticking through the door. And there was definite aggression involved. I know the dog. I haven't put him down. I've got a couple dogs that are on that edge, okay? It was my own stupidity that caused the situation to happen. Okay, I went in, I was upset at him barking and going crazy. I went in and tried to go correct him and get on him for it. And when I did, he ended up nailing me, okay? That pressure involved. So it was my fault. Every time I've been bit, over the years I've dealt with dogs, and I've been bit half a dozen times. I've been bit enough that I can actually go over the scars on my body and kind of give a history of when this one happened, when that one happened. Every time it happens, I always tell myself it's my fault. It's never the animal's fault. It's always my fault. Why? I have the ability to think. I have the ability to be objective and to stand back and think about things and make decisions before I do them. When I don't and I react emotionally and I go in with emotion without thinking things through, that's when I get bit. Okay? It's never the dog's fault. It's always my own. It's something I didn't do right that I need to learn and grow about and look at from the perspective that it's not the dog's fault. Okay? We had the situation with Arrow when he first came in, a ranked dominant male dog that's truly dominant, okay? That dog ended up nailing me, and it was my own fault. It never is the dog's fault. It's always something that I can learn and grow from, okay? The only thing you have to be able to protect you from this is your ability to think things through and to put together a protocol. If you're dealing with dangerous dogs, if you're dealing with a dog that is on the rescue side of things, even a dog that you don't think is going to be dangerous could bite you, okay? Where's the aggression coming from? Is it coming from fear? Is it coming from dominance? Is it coming from frustration, okay? Frustration is a factor in a kennel environment, okay? Don't let it kid you. So these are some of the things that cause the aggression to happen, all right? So we'll talk about this more. I think we're going to sit down with my friend of mine that's down the way, that's a trainer that I respect a lot. Then we'll sit down and we'll talk about some of this, and we'll be able to throw it back and forth between ourselves in a conversation that allow everybody to learn and grow in dealing with aggression. So we're going to have that coming at you next week sometime or whenever I can schedule it with him. He's a busy man. He's doing a Schutzen trial this next weekend, and then the regionals are coming up at the end of the month for IGP. It's actually IGP nowadays. So he's hard at work on that, trying to make sure he gets into that and succeeds. The regionals are coming up. He should do well with that. But one of the specialties is aggression. So I want to get together with him. We'll talk about this. So Mark Ferrasci with Protect Dog Training. Just be careful what you take in and be careful what you're doing when you're dealing with rescue, because not all of them are that knowledgeable, believe me. They want to save dogs and they want to make money. There's money in rescue, okay? Think about this. They take the dog in, they tell a big sob story, and they say, oh, poor dog, and then people start sending in donations. Right? They get some donations on that animal that helps pay the bills, and then when they place that dog, they get a placement fee. Okay, usually it's a little less, maybe it's $200, $250, whatever. And I'm not saying that they're all making money. There's money. There's cost involved. They've got to spay the dog a lot of times. They got to fix the dog, spay or neuter, and they have a whole protocol in regards to what they do with their system. Every company's a little different. Every rescue's a little different in how they deal with it. Some of them deal with these pity breeds. You know, and it's not to say that it's because of the pity breed. The dog's product of two things: environment and breeding. And environment is a big factor. Remember what I told you, 60%. Okay, so I'm not saying that pit bulls are bad dogs. I'm just saying that they have the more of a propensity for the aggression that we have happen a lot of times. That's why you see the pitties in the news a lot more. Okay, but there's always something that caused that. Okay, and that's what you want to do when you ask the questions, when you evaluate, when you look at these dogs and you're evaluating to take them in. You want to make sure you know where that dog's head's at. Where's the aggression coming from? Where's that dog's head at when you're dealing with that animal? It's very important because it's going to allow you to make the right decisions when you make the right choices in their rehabilitation and rehabilitating the dog and getting him back out on the street. So I thank you very much. Mark Ferrasci with Protect Dog Training will bring you more on this soon. Bye-bye.